Good evening. On behalf of LAist, welcome to Childcare Unfiltered. First, I want to make sure everyone can access this program. There is Spanish language interpretation available for this event, but to hear the program in either language, you will need to select either English or Spanish audio. To access the audio, click on the globe icon at the bottom of your screen and select English or Spanish. Our interpreter, Jasmine, will now explain that in Spanish.
Para los que hablan español, los participantes que hablan español, por favor, vayan a la parte de abajo de su pantalla, escojan el globo y ahí van a ver inglés o español. Si su lenguaje preferido es el español, por favor, escojan español. Gracias.
Thank you, Jasmine. I'm John Cohn, and I manage live programming and events for KPCC and LAist. I'm also a parent who can very much relate firsthand to the challenges and joys of caring for a child during a pandemic. I'm looking forward to tonight's event. And while we look forward to the return to in-person events, we're very pleased you've joined us online this evening for this event. Tonight's virtual event is part of a larger early childhood reporting initiative, Childcare Unfiltered, featuring online and in-person photo galleries documenting the lives of a dozen childcare providers. You can find the digital gallery and where to see the in-person installations at laist.com/childcareunfiltered. All of the programming on KPCC and LAist is made possible by the generous support of our members. Thank you to all of you. If you're not already a member and are in a position in which you can give, you can visit us online at support.laist.com/events. And hopefully that's appearing in the chat because that's a handle. If you want to stay up to date on upcoming events, virtual and eventually in person, please sign up for our events newsletter. You should also see a link to that posted in the chat. Throughout tonight's event, I invite you to engage with us and your fellow attendees in the chat section. You can access that by clicking on the chat button at the bottom of your screen. If you need technical assistance, please don't hesitate to post there as well, and we will happily help you out. If you have questions for the panel, you can share those using the Q&A function. You should see another button at the bottom of your screen that says Q&A. And now, without further ado, our moderator for the evening, LAist and KPCC Early Childhood Education reporter, Mariana Dale.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening. Like John said, it'd be great if you could get to know each other a little bit in the chat. Feel free to introduce yourself, maybe your role or where you're tuning in from. I personally am in my living room here in Pasadena, California. Tell your friends that if they want to join the event, they still can. You can go to the event page and they can join us right here. No judgment for anyone that's late. And also, like John mentioned, feel free to use the chat to ask any tech questions. We want to make sure that everyone can hear the event and use that Q&A function to ask any questions that you have for our wonderful panelists who you'll meet pretty soon. Childcare Unfiltered and tonight's event are both part of LAist and KPCC's dedication to telling stories about early childhood. We explore and explain the forces that shape the lives of kids 0 to 5 and their families. That includes everything from mom's health to kindergarten and just about everything in between. And we are always listening for your questions and ideas. We'll drop some information on how you can stay in touch with us in the chat. So we knew, the whole world noticed, schools shut down last year and a lot of parents had to figure out how to work and take care of their kids. But at the same time, many childcare providers stayed open. They had to take on extra costs and personal risk to do so. As journalists, we're used to being able to go out into the community and document what's happening, but we realized that we really needed providers to show us what it looks like to help raise young children during the pandemic. So last August, we opened up Childcare Unfiltered. Didn't have that name at the time, but more than 100 people applied for the project and it was super tough, but we narrowed the cohort down to 12 women. They come from all walks of life. We have preschool teachers, administrators, family childcare providers, nannies, and relatives, and they live all over Southern California, from Ventura County to South Central Los Angeles and Montebello. And I want you to be able to hear from them because that's really what this is all about and see some of the images they captured. So we have a short video.
No one ever sees this type of work. They never see this artwork. They just take it as we're child care providers, we're babysitters, however they want to label us, identify us. If people stop looking at us like babysitters, they will see we are the golden nuggets. I'm only not looking out for my life, but I'm looking out for the little ones' lives as well.
Working with families and being a nanny, it's deeper than just taking care of someone, right? You're like really taking care of the child and trying to help them develop also into the best little humans that they can be.
This is why I do it. I want them to be successful. I want them to take risks. I want them to learn, support them in becoming successful and fulfilling human beings.
They need someone to understand them. They need to feel safe. They need to feel secure. They are so eager to learn. They have such a great potential. So we as educators, as teachers, we have to bring their potential out.
We're human too. We go through burnout. We go through stress. We go through all of that, right? But every morning we still wake up, we grab our coffee, and we go and we smile and we're ready for the kids.
My job is hard, emotionally, physically, mentally. Like, it's challenging in all ways.
There's a lot of stuff that happens in childcare that people don't talk about.
Sí cambió un poco todo lo que la rutina de nosotros por la pandemia.
All this time we were so scared, but I couldn't show my fear, what I felt, my sadness to the parents. We had to put this front, okay, we know what we are doing, we are brave, but we were not, we were scared.
Era muy difícil, muy complicado. Los horarios se descompusieron, las rutinas se quebraron y tuvimos que hacer todo de nuevo, adaptarnos a todos los horarios para poder ayudarlos.
Just love the children when you have them and be in the moment with them.
I get to be able to be there for the growth and the development and the good times and the hard times.
It's a lot of work, but I enjoy it because just the process of knowing that I'm going to make the kids happy just makes me happy too.
This is the first time, but certainly not the last time, that I want to say thank you to everyone who participated in this project. Thank you for sharing such a candid portrait of your lives, and to see more of their work. It's really beautiful. You should check out the full project, and we're going to make sure you have the link so you know where to find it. And just in case anyone is just joining us, I'd also like our wonderful interpreter, Jasmine Prizeau, to go ahead and explain one more time how to hear tonight's event in English and in Spanish.
Para los que están participando en español, por favor, vayan a la parte de abajo de su pantalla. Ahí van a ver un globo, un icono de un globo. Ahí aprietan y pueden escoger español o inglés. Por favor, escojan español si hablan español. For those that speak English, also please go down to the symbol of the globe. At the bottom part of your screen where it says more, you'll see a globe. Click on it and choose English. Thank you. Muchas gracias.
Thanks, Jasmine. And now I want to introduce you all to 3 of our Childcare Unfiltered participants who are going to be joining us on the virtual stage this evening. Jackie Jackson is a family childcare provider of more than 20 years. The 2003 Ford van she drives is totally like an icon in her South Central Los Angeles neighborhood. People are like waving every time they see it because they know Miss Jackie and they know she does good work. Her home is licensed to care for up to 14 kids at a time, and she's also a leader in the union Child Care Providers United. Welcome, Jackie. And I also want to bring up Maria Gutierrez. She is a teacher in the Los Angeles Unified School District. She works at both the Shenandoah and the 36th Street Early Education Centers. And she's also a grandma to 6-year-old Charlie. And at the start of the pandemic, Charlie had someone new he had to share his bedroom with. It was her entire preschool class, because she transformed half of Charlie's bedroom into her virtual classroom and even drafted some of his toys into helping with her lessons. Welcome, Maria. And finally, we have Susanna Alonso, who is a family child care provider in Montebello. She sets her alarm super early. She is up at 4:30 most mornings to get the house ready for the kids 0 to 13 that arrive each day. She's cared for families with disabilities and families who participate in California's subsidy program for low-income families. Thank you for having us, or thank you for joining us, Susanna. We know you all have very busy lives, super busy lives, and so we really appreciate your time today. And I would love to hear from each of you. If you want to go ahead and unmute yourselves, what's something you think people might not know about the work that you do? And Maria, we'll start with you.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for having me here. I really thank you so much, Mariana, for giving me this opportunity to participate in this wonderful project. And also would like to thank everyone for being in this great event. Thank you so much, Holly Mitchell and Christina. I'm sorry, her last name. Everyone, welcome. For this past year, we totally had to adapt into a new teaching style. Our parents, our students, and everybody else, we had to learn how to cope with a new technology. We had to assist, the parents had to assist their children with our virtual learning classes. I think this pandemic, caused a lot of struggles, and the impact that caused to our families were incredible. At this moment, the families are facing a lot of difficulties and a lot of trauma due to this situation. Our jobs at school are not easy. We have to work really hard. We have to work hard for the well-being of the child, for the well-being of the families, the children. Emotionally, we have to take a lot of trainings, a lot of professional development, and it's not easy. It's been very, very hard, because we see a lot of people that are going through financially issues, health issues, and they also have a lot of evictions. And the children, their behavior changed a lot. When you are working directly with the children, you are able to see what is wrong with them. Why is it that they are acting the way they are acting? They go through a lot of frustration, a lot of anger. Some families don't have enough food to eat. So this really makes it really hard for the children to focus and to be attentive when they are in the classrooms. They also don't sleep. They are lack of sleep. So the lack of sleep also makes it very hard for them to pay attention and to participate.
Thank you, Maria. And Jackie, she was experiencing all of this from a slightly different vantage point. Jackie, can you tell us a little bit about something that you think people might not know about what it was like to be a family childcare provider over the last year? Can you go ahead and unmute yourself, Jackie?
Sorry.
Oh, no worries.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, Jackie.
I can't hear. Oh, great. Okay, great. Okay. It was pretty much a real big challenge. When you come into this field, you believe that you have all the tools, you believe that you're equipped, but unfortunately, when no one had no idea the pandemic was even going to rear its head, so we didn't know how to deal with a lot of areas that the children were struggling with. We had children, like she had mentioned earlier, some of the children were struggling with emotions. They were losing family members. Some of them were losing family members. Some of them had very hyper activity going on within themselves because we're all kind of segregated from each other. No one understands how the play was supposed to interact. And then on top of that, we got rules from the licensing. I can go on, but I'll just give you a few. The new rules that we had to apply, we don't even know if we're doing it right. We don't even know if we're going to get dinged for not doing it right. The children, and some came in with emotional issues. We had food bags. We couldn't no longer serve the food in a table style serving anymore. We had to put the children's food in lunch bags because everything had to be disposed. That was something to do a lot of washing, a lot of sterilizing, a lot of trying to keep up financially, physically, and mentally. It was pretty much way overwhelming. But we have the heart for it and we believe we was equipped. So we kept challenging it, we kept fighting and we kept going at it. And still today, we're still fighting it, we're still challenging it, and we're still going forward because we believe that we can make a difference because it was making a difference before the pandemic. So we just hold strongly to Holly Mitchell words, improve the lives of family through child care services.
And
I just,
no,
I'm sorry.
Oh, no, you're fine. I just wanted to have Susanna have a chance to weigh in about what her experience has been like and what you think is important for people to know about the work that you do.
Pues ha sido muy difícil toda
esta. It has been a very difficult time, this life in the pandemic. It's been a 360 turn. Like my colleagues, you've had to learn all the new rules of the game, how to manage the kids in every single category. The schedules have changed. Also, the way you help them with their schoolwork has gotten very different because classes are run differently. You have to make sure they're paying attention so that they not fidget with other kids. The changes have been immense, and it has been a very, very one-on-one individual type of work with each child because each one has responded to the challenges of the pandemic very, very differently. And it's been a drastic change. It's been a complete change in how we do our work.
Thank you, Susanna. And Jackie, I want to ask you to speak on something that I think everyone just heard in the video. And for those who missed it, you say that childcare providers are the golden nuggets. What is it that makes y'all the golden nuggets?
I think what makes us the golden nugget is that the art that we provide to the children, not only for the children, but for the families. I believe that our residence itself is like a resource center. It's like a one-stop show because we don't only just improve the lives of the children, we improve the lives of the families as well. So all those different areas and interest areas that we had to concern ourselves with through the pandemic, we were the resources. We had to find out where could we send them for housing? Where could you go and get food? Where could your kid go and get testing? So we were like one big link. We were just like we were the big link, and we had to ourselves go through the research to find out where can we accommodate the children, the families, the mental health. That's why I said we were the golden nuggets. We are the golden nuggets. And then to prepare the children to have them to be school ready, it was a lot. you know what I mean, to try to stay on. Although you had to deal with school-age kids, infants and toddlers, you have them all in one big melting pot, you know, so you have to understand how to juggle all of that at one time. That's a miracle. And then to hear the children with the outcome. If you guys can hear some of those videos of the children and their learning abilities, and when you had this one little kid telling me about all the body parts and the organs and things of that nature, I was amazed. I was like, we really are doing this. We are really making a difference. And I think that if someone would just give us the opportunity to come into these houses and see what it is that these care providers are really doing, you guys would be amazed of all the big artworks. I had three students that I cared for are doctors. Okay, we have 3 that are doctors and became doctors this year, coming from the care providers out of the residential homes. It's doctors out of here, you know, and that was just this year. I can go on and on. Some come to the door. One came in last week and he's a professional football player. I have one playing professional basketball, but people don't know we're making the difference. Why? Because we're able to work with the children one-on-one. We're able to detect when the child has a learning disability from a behavior issue. We're able to a point that tell that mother, we need to go and do some resources. We need to go and try to figure out what we can do to help this child along the ways, because once they leave from us, the schools, if you got 20 kids in a classroom, they won't have the time to actually work with or where that the child has a deficiency we need to address. Like, get tired of hearing from me because you know I'll go on and on and on. Okay.
We love to hear from you.
Again, like I said, that's my reasoning for saying that we're the golden nuggets. Say it again.
Yeah, no,
I'm sorry,
no, we're happy to hear from you, Jackie. And Maria, from in a different kind of setting, tell us a little bit about some of the things you had to do to kind of meet your students' needs, because you were telling us you were noticing all of these things. You know, their families might not have housing, they might not have food. What did you do to address that, Maria?
Yes, well, I always try to help my parents with different kind of resources as much as possible. If I have to send resources for educational resources for the children, I do. I send PBS and ABC, all those kind of programs that we have available for them. I also try to help them with food. You know, I have a person that has a supermarket. It's called World's Harvest. It's a bank, a food bank, and I also get a lot of food from them and share with our parents in need. I know we have a lot of families that they are lack of the basic needs, and this really affects our children behavior, you know, and it's a really major problem. I always try to help parents. I had an experience one time. While I was working in our Zoom class, I saw a girl that was not participating. She was not focusing. She was not listening. And that really caught my attention. I was really concerned and tried to help her for like a week. And I tried to use a lot of strategies and nothing helped. So one Saturday morning, I woke up and I was worried. I usually get in touch with the parents through the dojo class. So this time I decided to make a call, and I called her mother. And she told me that when I called, I asked her how is it that she was doing. She said she was not doing very well because she didn't have a job and she didn't have food to eat. She told me that all her family got infected, and the only only thing that she had, it was her mother. Sometimes she might bring food or money for her. So I decided to get her address. I know that was not for me being an educator doing that, but I really said I have to help. So I went to my garage and I packed a lot of Charlie's yogurts and fruit punches, and I got a lot of rice and beans and for my pantry. My husband said, you know, you have to go and give her some onions and potatoes and whatever you can find. So that's what I did. I took this food to that family, and she really thanked me. She appreciated. But the next morning, I was able to see that our student was able to participate, especially because also her mother told me that the lack of speech was because she didn't know how to speak the language English. So a lot of things happened that day. I was just very sad, and at the same time, I was really happy and proud that I was able to make a difference in her life, at least for that time.
Thank you for sharing that with us, Maria. And it's
You're
fun
welcome.
to see. I think we can see your grandson, Charlie, in the background a little bit.
Yes, Charlie's been with me all the time, but he's a good boy. He's been respecting.
Yeah, no, it's nice to see him.
Thank you.
And
So
Susanna, I wanted to ask you, you've been doing this for years now, but never in a year like this.
Correct.
What are some supports that you think that childcare providers themselves need to be able to keep doing this work?
¿Cuál es?
Pues primero que valoren exactamente como ha estado.
First, that they value all of the work that we do, the labor that we provide, all of the things we do for our kids, that they value us. And secondly, as childcare providers, we also need economic resources. And I know that we get salaries, if you want to put it that way, but the truth is the salaries or what we're paid is very, very low. The state, the county, we have to ask what we ask for care of children. And if there were a way for them to help us with some sort of increase in our tariffs or our rates, that would help us, because we always use that money to better our facilities, to provide more resources for the children, and to have everything we need in order to give them a better learning experience, better care, a better environment, better everything for the kids. The money always goes back to the kids.
Thank you,
So
Susan. Oh, go ahead.
So basically, really just to value the work we do and to show it to economically. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And I think this is a really good opportunity to bring in two more voices to the conversation. You know, these childcare providers don't exist in a vacuum. There is a whole system of structures in place to support childcare, and that includes some of our local elected leaders. And so I'd like to introduce Cristina Garcia, who represents California's 58th Assembly District. If you're not familiar, that area includes Bellflower, Downey, and Montebello, among other places. She was first elected assembly member in 2012, and she grew up and currently lives in Bell Gardens. And before her time as a legislator, she taught math to students of all ages from middle school to university. Thank you, Assembly Member Garcia, for being here.
Thank you for having me.
And I'd also like to bring aboard Supervisor Holly Mitchell, who is part of the Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors and represents the 2nd District. And that includes Leimert Park, Culver City, and Inglewood, among some other cities in LA County. And prior to that, she was a colleague to Assemblymember Garcia and also a senator in California's legislature. And especially relevant to this conversation, Supervisor Mitchell once led Crystal Stairs, which is a resource and referral agency, a childcare agency here in Los Angeles that connects low-income families with childcare. Thanks for being here, Supervisor Mitchell.
Thank you so much for hosting this conversation and inviting me.
And I want to welcome the other folks in the audience that if they have questions for any of our panelists, they can go ahead and drop them in the Q&A function. And through the magic of technology, those questions will get communicated to me, and then we're going to hopefully be able to speak on some of them. But just to start out, I want to hear some feedback from you both, and we can start with you, Assemblymember Garcia. What do you think of what we've heard so far this evening?
I think our providers are Wonder Women out there. So I think they do great work before the pandemic. And I think the love for the children, for the craft that they do, they stepped up to the plate during this pandemic. And it's been challenging for everyone to adjust. And they've had to adjust not just for themselves and their families, but for all of these other families. And I think as an educator, and Maria, Susanna, and Jackie all touched on that. Like, we know that our kids can't learn if they don't have the support system and their families aren't okay. And so that role that they constantly step into. And so while they're trying to figure it out for themselves, they're figuring it out for everybody else and making it work somehow. And so just amazing. But also for myself at the state level, it's like a group of mostly women, oftentimes women of color, who are undervalued and underpaid and underappreciated. And, I think at the beginning of the pandemic, I was very clear how important these women are. And so for us at the state level, like, how do we take this moment and this awareness to do work that my colleague Mitchell started well before I got here? This discussion about what we pay our providers is something that started long before I have. And we've made small dents, but if we really care about these children and these providers, it's time that we step up in real ways this year.
And Supervisor Mitchell, any thoughts on what we've heard from our providers so far this evening, or what you've heard even from your constituents?
I want to thank Ms. Jackie for the shout out. That was the Crystal Stairs tagline, our mission statement that she quoted. And to thank Susanna and Maria for the work that you do. As I listened to you, I was flooded with a number of thoughts. First of all, I thought about the family daycare providers that impacted my life as a single working parent. When I joined the Crystal Stairs family, my son was 1 year old. And I had an amazing family daycare provider in Sacramento. And I was recruited to come home to LA, to come to Crystal Stairs. And what almost stopped me from taking the job was not wanting to leave my family daycare provider in Sacramento, who had been so phenomenal for me. But I came home to LA, and it was important that I have him in care in my Crystal Stairs service area. And once again, I found amazing women who supported me as a parent, showed him unconditional support and love, tapped me on the shoulder when it was time to potty train, helped talk me off the walls when, it came time to do those important ages and stages of development. And so, we can't thank them enough. And I think the examples that they shared today, that really is true. We all know California was the leader in the 0 to 5 brain development research. And these 3 women played critical instrumental roles in pouring into our babies in those early critical brain formation years. And so I have joined with Christina in doing all that we can as members of the Women's Caucus in the state legislature to stand up on your behalf, to stand up when you all didn't know we were, to push back in budget times, to really make sure that we are continuing to be your voice and represent your needs, to show you honor and respect with regard to increasing those reimbursement rates. We're fighting to increase slots, but we never compromise the battle. As we fought to increase slots, we fought to increase reimbursement to childcare providers as well. And Christina is now chair of the Women's Caucus, and I have every confidence that she's going to continue on with that fight.
And I want to fill in some background for some folks that might not be as well versed in childcare policy. And so we have a kind of a mixed delivery system, what they call it in California, where some people pay out of pocket for childcare, but there are other folks who qualify for a variety of subsidy programs that help them pay for childcare. And so when those families select a provider, that provider is paid by the state of California for the work of caring for that child. And so those rates are set by our government, by both our legislature and also in coalition with the executive office with the governor. And so I was wondering, Assemblymember Garcia, if you could speak a little bit to what the efforts have been to increase those rates. Currently, providers are paid based on a rate survey that was done back in 2016, and there has been effort to increase the rates. And tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so the Women's Caucus for my tenure has been working on early childhood education and both increasing slots and rates. And Holly had the tough job before I got here when there was a budget crisis of making cuts in different ways. But along the way, even as cuts have been made, and even last year when there was a discussion about making cuts at the state level and asking folks to do a 10% cut across the board, the Women's Caucus fought hard against that. And it's a little bit insulting, or maybe a lot insulting, to do a cut for providers who are already so underpaid. And the work to fill in gaps has been so slow. But we have had some wins along the way. But this year we have made it clear that we need real rate reform. We lost over 30% of our providers before the pandemic, and there's been lots of reasons why we've been losing them now during the pandemic, but their work is so important. And so we have been fighting to ensure that we get that rate reform. The governor's budget does not include any reform for rates. It just gives us more slots, but we know from experience that more slots is not going to work without the money. And so we do in the legislative budget have over $1 billion of continuous appropriation for rate reform. Working on the leadership that the caucus has done through different asks, through different budgets, including Senator Leyva, who's been working on rate reform for a while. We've also been working on the family fees to try to cover that. We have families who can't afford that, and so trying to cap that as well. But I think a lot of it is education to our peers. The system, like you said, is diverse, and we have to worry about our kids from 0 to 12. And the needs are different for the parents, and we need to worry about them. We need to have that flexibility. And I think sometimes we get tunnel vision and we focus on that one thing, whether it's our 3-year-olds or whether it's our 4-year-olds or it's TK. And so I think for us, it's like, how do we not choose? How do we do it all in a way that honors our children, their families, but honors these providers that are not just babysitters, like Holly said, are developing the talent so that they become the leaders that then when they walk into my classroom, they're going to be able to be successful because these providers work with them on basic number sense, on spatial awareness. And so it's going to make my life that much easier as an educator, and it's going to make their life that much more successful.
And I want to raise a question that we've received from our audience. And we also got a similar question actually before this event even started. And I think this is something that both our decision makers and our providers might be able to speak to. And that is, how do we create more opportunities or programs for kids with disabilities and those special ed students? I know Susanna and Jackie, both of you have worked with kids in that population. Maria, you might have as well, if one of you wants to start us off.
I'm sorry, what was your question?
Yeah, how do you work with kids that have disabilities? What programs are available for them? And maybe even give us some ideas of what else is needed to serve these kids.
The greatest thing that I tend to do with my facility is that I'm only allotted to take up to 12 children. And before the pandemic, it was 14. So what I did was I didn't always take on just children that were subsidized. I broke it up. So every year, I mean, not every year, in my enrollment, I always make sure I leave 2 open slots available for children with special needs. And only because it's a challenge. And I don't know what I'm going to be addressed with, but of course, I don't want to discriminate. So I always take in 2 children with special needs, probably 4 that's private paid, and probably 6 that's subsidized and so forth. But the challenge in doing that is that sometimes you get parents that are in denial And you have to, again, have that resource available to walk them through it, to allow them to know that you're going to stand with them 100% to understand what's going on with the baby after they face the fact that they're in the denial stage. But in the time being, the child is still coming in with the disability that you have to learn. You have to equip yourself with understanding what are you going to need, what do you have to do to make it where it's going to be a comfort to the child. So then that leads you to going through all your resources and trying to make a difference for the baby in the presence of the child is in your resident. That's pretty much, if that's, pretty much all what we've done here.
Yeah, so it sounds like you're able to give people one-on-one attention, and that's
yes.
an opportunity you have in the family child care setting.
Correct. And then that way, when the child opposed to go to school, the child is ready. If not ready, the mother has a better, I've sat on plenty meetings with the IEPs and things like that. And sometimes the parents come in and they're not even ready for that. So we have to ourselves put ourselves in training to understand what is this parent, and they have to have it for the support from us to sit on the panel to get the best for the child.
Thanks,
so we all just have to, we're family here.
And I think I saw maybe Susanna taking some notes.
A number of years ago, recognizing that we needed to support the child care provider community by providing training, so child care providers could be early identifiers. So through the Department of Developmental Disabilities, during the lean budget years, they cut the funding, but we were able to put it back in as soon as the state got some more money. Specific training for the early care and education field to train child care providers to be the early identifiers of learning delays, autism, et cetera. Secondly, there was a number of years where we worked to augment the reimbursement rate. And so if someone was going to, for example, create a specialty that they were only going to care for children with special needs, we tried to augment their reimbursement rate, recognizing the enhanced training and perhaps enhanced equipment they would have to have. Back in my Crystal Stairs days, we had a lending library for a number of years out of our LeVert Park office, where we would lend water tables and sand tables, some of the equipment that was really costly that you would see at child care centers, but some family daycare providers couldn't afford. And I had some extra money one year from a grant, and we went and bought the tricycles and all of the large motor skill development toys for kids with physical disabilities. And I was shocked at the number of family daycare providers who would come and borrow that equipment from the lending library because there was such a great need, and those resources and tools and learning tools tended to be more expensive. So I think there's all kinds of ways as policymakers we can honor the fact that you get enhanced training, enhanced reimbursement, and people who run agencies like Crystal Stairs need to do all that we can to make sure that referrals are going to people who are trained, and we are including that population into the early care and education population that we're obligated to serve.
Thanks, Supervisor Mitchell. And I see you've unmuted Assemblymember Garcia.
Yeah, and so in addition to the rate reform, we have been blessed with a great budget that at the state level we get to do. And while it also highlights a lot of the income inequalities that we also need to address with that, it's given us an opportunity. So the Women's Caucus is also advocating for $300 million one-time dollars to help pay for the additional training that family providers might need, including for special ed. We are asking for close to $1 billion for infrastructure to help these providers also invest in the equipment that they need to be able to provide for these children. And so I think our providers here, the passion and the love, and Jackie, Maria, and Susanna are here for the kids and their families. How do we, help them be successful, and how do we step and provide these extra funds? It can't always be that we give them a raise and everything goes into the business itself. But at some point, we have to stop asking our providers to be martyrs and allow them to be both successful businesswomen and pick themselves up while they're picking up the families they're servicing.
And Susanna, I see you nodding. Is there something you wanted to share or a question that you wanted to ask?
¿Decir algo?
No, estoy afirmando lo que ella está diciendo con respecto
I'm basically affirming what they're saying, basically in terms of disabilities with the kids. You know, when we talk about disabilities, we almost always talk about physical disabilities, but we don't really take into account mental disabilities, autism, ADD, ADHD, which, you know, like in terms of childcare, you know, they don't really even take it into account. We have children who have autism with ADHD, ADD, kids that have to take medication. We need extra help a lot of times. And they take it as if these kids are no different. They don't realize that a lot of times these kids require extra money, extra care, extra attention, and extra learning. We need the training. So, and also training for society at large, for the parents, for the other kids, to teach them what it is to have a child with a disability. So there needs to be education with the parents, because sometimes even the parents are very impatient. We need to help parents to understand how to accommodate their children's disabilities so that they can continue to raise their children in a way that is healthy, understanding that the children have limitations and that they're not just being lazy or they don't want to do it.
Thank you, Susanna. And Supervisor Mitchell, I want to hop to you for a quick second because I know you'll be departing right at 7, but I wanted to make sure that people know how to contact your office if they want to follow up on anything that you've said today. So if you just want to say it aloud, we'll record it and make sure and drop it in the chat so that people know how to find you.
Thank you. And so, and I'd like to tell you about a motion that I'm going to introduce next Tuesday. So I'm giving you a little
sneak peek.
Sneak peek, exactly, a little sneak peek, because it has a direct impact on all of the child care providers. But to reach me, you know, on all social media, Holly J. Mitchell, the direct line to the Board of Supervisors office is area code 213-974-2222. I'm so proud, Christina, I've learned my own new phone number, 974-2222. And I think the website is mitchell.lacounty.gov. I think that's the website that we have a staff that work overtime to make sure that it's updated with resources and we keep it dynamic. Let me tell you about this motion I'm very excited about introducing. You know, when I first ran for office in 2008 for the Assembly, it was because I got mad. I'd taken a bunch of Crystal Stairs child care providers and parents to a budget hearing where they were proposing to cut $1 billion out of child care. And there was no one there from LA County. And LA County has 1/3 of the state's kids. There was not a single woman on that budget subcommittee. I got mad. I ran for that office. And 2 years later, I was chairwoman of that budget subcommittee. And I worked alongside Christina and the other women of the Women's Caucus. And over a 10-year period of time, we put $1 billion, the $1 billion they cut in 2008, we put that $1 billion back in child care. And under Christina's leadership, there will be more and more and more, and I'm proud. Let me tell you what we're doing at the county level. I'm going to introduce on Tuesday a motion called Pathways to Economic Mobility for Women, Communities of Color, and the Care Economy. Guess who the care economy is? You. And this is what we're going to do. You know, the federal government is sending money through the American Rescue Plan and the CARES Act dollars to the state, to counties, to cities to help with our economic recovery, and helping the child care develop. The child care industry, from my perspective, is critical so parents can go back to work. And we know that in LA County, the child care industry is the top, depending upon the year, either the number 2 or number 3 income generating industry in this whole county, like right behind the entertainment industry. You all are powerful in terms of the resources that you funnel into our economy by paying your assistants in your family daycare or the supplies you buy to support your children. So it's a huge industry. And in my perspective, we have to act like the big dogs that we are serious, and we can't let people push us around. So we're going to help childcare providers reopen swiftly in a variety of ways. We are going to propose that the county provide childcare stabilization grants to providers to help you cover operating expenses such as cleaning supplies, personal protective equipment, mental health supports, and for the hiring and training of necessary staff. If we can funnel money into you, you then pay it forward by hiring people, paying salaries, et cetera. The second piece we're going to do, and I'm really excited about this, when we recognize how many family daycare providers are no longer in business because they've fallen behind their rent or lost their housing, we're going to help those small providers who've fallen behind on their rent by paying a portion of their back rent and help them reach agreements with their either commercial or their private landlords so they can stay in place, given the significance of the work you do. So keep your eyes and ears open. We hopefully will get some press. You can tune into the Board of Supervisors meeting next Tuesday. It's online at 9:30. But that's what we're going to do at the county level to really try to support you in the most meaningful and significant way that I know how, to provide you with the tools and resources you need to reopen and be successful, and to try to help you make sure that you can cover your rent so you can continue to provide those amazing services to the children in your care. And on behalf of all of their mamas and tias, I thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Mitchell. And I also endorse anyone attending any public meeting you can go to. It is a great way to figure out how your government is or is not working for you. And, you know, that is one thing with the pandemic. Everything's live streamed now. So you can sit in the comfort of your home and watch life happen. I wanted to go to you, Maria, and see if you had any parting thoughts or parting questions, comments about what we've heard, Maria. Gotta unmute first.
Yes, Supervisor Holly Mitchell, I think she already left, right?
Yeah, we might have just lost her.
Well, I was just going to share some thoughts about also the new programs that some of the parents that they recommended for the children school. They told me that they really would like to see more school age programs and more educational programs for the neighborhood. Also the safety, they mentioned that it's a lot of crime, and they would like to see more police officers around the schools.
And this is things that you've heard from the families that you work with?
Yes, yes. One of the parents mentioned that to me.
Well, thank you for sharing that with us. And
you're welcome.
Right now, I want to take a moment to let all of our other participants know we've been hearing this evening from family child care provider Susanna Alonso, LAUSD preschool teacher Maria Gutierrez, and family child care provider Jackie Jackson. They are part of our cohort of a dozen child care workers who participated, early educators who participated in Child Care Unfiltered. And I know we have a couple more in the audience, in the virtual audience. And so we're going to do a little welcome to the stage. So if you are a photographer for the project, please go ahead and use the raise hand. Don't actually raise your hand. Use the raise hand function in Zoom. And so that's going to help us identify you. But as we start to close out the evening, Assemblymember Garcia, any parting thoughts for our providers or for our audience?
Yeah, I mean, for all of our providers here with us today, just the deepest gratitude for the work that you do for our families, for our economies. I think we forget a lot of times about the sacrifices you have to do for yourself and your own family along the way. And so also want to thank your family for sharing you in this process. And I want to say that I was really impacted when I was watching the video, and all of you mentioned how you had to put a brave face on for these families and for these children. And while we were all afraid, and a lot of folks were like, I can't go to work, I can't do this or that, none of you stopped. None of you like missed a beat, and you continue to be that strength for the families. And so I just want to thank you for that courage that you showed this whole time for our families out there. It isn't lost. The Women's Caucus is going to continue to advocate to ensure that this workforce is appreciated. The care economy is something that we've been talking about, mostly women of color in LA County. And we want to make sure that as we talk about lifting everyone up and the economy rising, that we do, as Ms. Mitchell is saying, that we're lifting up these folks that are such a powerhouse in our economy out there. And so just thank you and my deepest gratitude on behalf of all the families that you're out there affecting. You're doing a lot of casework and putting a lot of families together with resources. Just want to say that our offices are here to be that bridge also. And so I had a number of writers calling me during the pandemic saying our kids suddenly need paper because they used to get paper at school, but now they need paper to do their schoolwork. You know, we need, the state is requiring us to have N95 masks and we can't buy them anymore. And so how do we stay open? And so know that a lot of us are here to make bridges, and whatever you guys need, we're here to be your allies. Holler, and we will try to figure out how to allow you to continue to do the good work that you're doing.
And Assemblymember Garcia, how do people connect with your office? How do they connect with the Women's Caucus?
Yeah, so you can call my office at 562-861-5803. My team is bilingual in Spanish and English as well. And you can look us up. And I was laughing when Holly said that she memorized her phone number because I have my number memorized, but I haven't memorized my email properly in all these years. But I will drop it in the chat so you can share it with individuals out there. And if you're not in my district, we will connect it to your assembly member. Know that we all work together. And so we'll make sure that we connect it to the person that can help you.
Thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate your time and your presence here. And I'm starting to see some familiar faces of our participants in Childcare Unfiltered. First, a thank you to Jackie, Susanna, and Maria for sharing a little bit of your story with us tonight. And now I just want to take a moment to recognize all of the Childcare Unfiltered participants attending tonight. If you don't already have your cameras on, please turn them on so we can give you a virtual round of applause. And I'll be the claps for everyone. So again, thank you to Maria, thank you to Susanna, to Jackie, Ruth, Sophie, Jeannie, Brenda, Melissa, Manoja, Luz. Who else is in here that I am missing? I hope no one. I think I got everyone. This project would not have happened without you and without your stories. That is what Childcare Unfiltered is. It is your lives and it is your experience. And it was a privilege for us to be able to present it. Thank you again. Please take the time to go look at all of their photos and their stories. We're going to drop the link in the chat. It's laist.com/childcareunfiltered. And while you're there, you can see where to see these providers' photos out in the real world. We're starting to reemerge, and there are going to be 5 organizations and arts institutions around Southern California that are going to be presenting photo installations of Childcare Unfiltered. The first 2 are already up. You can find them in Compton and in Santa Monica. The rest are going to go up later this month and in July. I know Jackie's gone and taken a selfie with her photo. That was so cool to see in Compton. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here, and please explore the project in all the ways that I've just mentioned. And it's really important that we thank the team at KPCC and LAist who helped make this event happen tonight. This event was produced by John Cohn, Tony Federico, Daphne Liu, Stephanie Ratopper, Chava Sanchez, Rebecca Stemmy, and thank you to our interpreter, Jasmine Prizeau. And one more reminder, our work doesn't exist in a vacuum. Our stories don't exist without you. I saw that there are some questions that we didn't get to this evening. Rest assured, I'm going to be reading those questions. I am looking for story ideas all the time. And so I encourage you to get in touch with KPCC and with LAist. And one more thing, if I hadn't already bombarded you with things, we would love to see what your childcare experience has looked like throughout the last year. We have seen the experiences of 12 different people through Childcare Unfiltered. We would love to see more. We know there are parents out there. We know there are other providers out there. Please share your stories with us using the hashtag Childcare Unfiltered, or again, by reaching us directly. Thank you to everyone, and good night. For the folks from the project that are staying, our VIPs, to chat with us, please go ahead and turn off your cameras and mute yourself, and we will be with you shortly. For everyone else, Thank you again for spending some time with KPCC and LAist tonight. Have a good evening.